Hello guys, it's UmiWave, and I am here to talk about how big Sonic Frontiers 2 could be. Unfortunately, Sonic was not shown at this year's Game Awards, which had 171 million streams. That's more than this year's Super Bowl, which is crazy to think that 170 million streams was at the Game Awards. And personally, I feel like this was a big missed opportunity for SEGA and left many Sonic fans disappointed. Me personally, I didn't really feel anything. I was a bit relieved because that means that at least SEGA is letting Sonic Team take their time with this, because much of Sonic Frontiers' problems came from development hell, basically making an idea, scrapping it, doing it again, making another idea, and then after that scrapping that idea, which hopefully it's not like that now. And also, like, I'm pretty sure it left Sonic fans disappointed because of the long gap between Frontiers and now. However, if you have not noticed, we've had some new Sonic games in the past 4 years, and in total those Sonic games have sold a total of like 10 million plus copies, with Frontiers selling 4.5 million. Sonic Superstars 2.5 million. A lot of people, like SEGA, said that Sonic Superstars didn't do the numbers that they were expecting, but that's still good for Sonic. That's still good for Sonic. Shadow Legends selling 2.3 million. All these stats are as of July 2025, so this is not like the newest stats. These I could be completely wrong. And recently with Crossworlds, they recently sold past 1 million, but SEGA is mostly looking forward toward the long-term sales of Sonic Racing Crossworld. And to be honest, we haven't seen numbers like this ever since like the 2000s. Like, where almost every mainline Sonic game outside of Sonic 06 sold past 1 million, which is crazy success. The 2010s are like pretty dead. Like, I think the best selling game from that was Sonic Generations, which sold only 1.85 million. That is very weak. In Sonic right now, that would be very weak. That's like a very weak number for sales. While trying to get ideas for this video on my downtime, I did watch 2 videos from Cyfesk and another video from Channel Pup about the content and development hell of Sonic Frontiers, and you know, some things started to click a little bit, but you gotta let me explain. Give me some time. So after completing Sonic X Shadow Generations, it left a great impression on me. However, it was just too short to really grasp how big Sonic Frontiers 2 could be, but it strengthened my faith in Sonic Team. However, still, it left us with only a part of what we could expect in Sonic Frontiers 2. Then I thought about the fact that before any Sonic Frontiers trailers were out, our only source was like 4chan discussion boards and 4chan leaks, which, while like not credible at the time, because you know, usually leaks, niggas could be lying, niggas could fucking cap for internet points, which I think, come on now, we too grown for that shit. Like, they were not like completely credible, but they did get a lot of things right post Frontiers, like Sonic, like Frontiers being open world, the way Kronos Island looked, Super Sonic vs Giganto boss fight, and cyberspace. But now with Sonic Frontiers 2, it's pretty much goddamn it's radio silent, baby. Like, I'm seeing the tumbleweeds roll around because I'm seeing barely anything come out about Sonic Frontiers 2. But like, it's like we get some leaks here and there, but they don't really go much into detail about like what, like as much as like Sonic Frontiers leaks did, which left me asking like, how big in scale could Sonic Frontiers 2 be compared to Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Gens? So first, I wanted to point out that Takashi Iizuka stated that Sonic Team aren't focused on remakes at the moment. Instead, they want to focus on making newer and richer environments for other Sonic projects. If this is the case, I would say they really need to go back to the drawing board, because when I played Sonic Frontiers, that had to be the most generic open world I've ever seen. It was pretty generic in art style, and it wasn't really like interesting to traverse. Like mostly the sky platforms literally carried most of the Sonic X elements into that game. And for them to surpass it, I would say, making worlds like Rainbow Garden and Steampunk City from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, those worlds look interesting. Rainbow Garden looks interesting. I would like to see that in the Sonic game. And especially Steampunk City. Steampunk City was really interesting to look at. When it was first revealed, I was like, whoa, this is like really, really good. Another big change would be animation quality, because Sonic Frontiers animation quality was like inconsistent. It had its highs and it had its lows. Like, there are cutscenes that had better camera angles and animations, like when Sonic would confront any of the Titans. And then it had some in-game cutscenes where the characters would stand around with only their mouths moving. Like, they would they would be talking, but there would be no expressions, no shoulder movements, no moving around, like no little gestures, like nothing. In June of this year though, SEGA released some test animations that had Sonic being extremely stretchy and squashy to show up their new V-formation technique that unfortunately wasn't used in Shadow Generations due to time constraints. But even without the new animation technique, the cutscene quality was like the best it was in Sonic Unleashed. Bar none. Bar none. Like, I loved looking at Shadow Gens, especially its cutscenes, because they're just animated so well and so smooth too, that I'm like, damn, like this next game could really be it, you know what I mean? They were like action packed. Shadow had like a wide range of emotions and facial expressions depending on who he was talking to, and the camera wasn't as stiff as it was in Frontiers and Forces. So overall, Shadow Gens really left me with a very good impression. It left me with a good faith in Sonic Team that they could deliver in presentation and gameplay. Then there's the physics, which a lot of people have their complaints about in Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers had some really jank physics. Like, sometimes I feel like Sonic was just glued to the ground. Like, you would go up a hill, and then there would be times where like you would literally run up the hill, and then all of a sudden Sonic decides, yo, let's just go down this hill and not fly off. Like, what? And it would be like at max speed too. You would just go at max speed, just go swoop down the hill. And in other cases, there would be times where like the tiniest rock would just send you flying out of nowhere. I think Shadow Gens improved on this and having more defined physics. However, there were some Frontier times in the open zone where I would like sink into the ground still, like swoop into the ground, depending on where Shadow was at, you know what I mean? But it wasn't like all the time, it was just sometimes. However, Kishimoto did come out on Twitter saying that he did want to make a game without the boost, seeing in my opinion, it is inefficient to develop for and focus on momentum-based gameplay. So this next game, Frontiers 2, could feature some adventure / boost hybrid gameplay akin to Shadow Generations, because the boost can still be used in other ways. Me personally, I think the best way to manage the boost would be to make it like a flow state, like in Sonic Advance 2 or Sonic CD, where like you had to keep a certain amount of speed to travel to the future or the past. And like in Sonic Advance 2, like you would enter a flow state, and you have to keep up that flow state by doing like tricks or defeating a certain amount of enemies. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I found the adventure games that I found their momentum-based physics very fun to play with and experiment, and I think that those physics really allowed for a lot of player expressions where everything is done by you and you decide how you want to play and traverse through the game. And I don't mean to get a little bit off topic, But and me personally, a lot of people don't like automation in Sonic games, but me, I am, I like automation in my Sonic games. I think they're good for spectacle. However, I do think that I would like to have it just be made short and to the point. I don't want like on replay, I gotta see this whole spectacle, like Shadow literally kicking the missile away from him on replay on Space Colony Arc. I don't want to see that multiple times. Like the first time, it's like, okay, cool. The second time, it's like, okay, cool. The third time, it's like, okay, I just want to get back to the game. And sometimes during those spectacle moments, you don't even have to like press a button. You just gotta put the controller down. And I feel like that takes control away from the player, you know what I mean? So as much as I like the spectacle, I love the substance more because it just sticks with me in the long run. And on a last note, I just want to remind everyone that Frontiers had 130 people working on it, with Shadow Gens having 150 people, including 70 designers, 30 planners, and 50 programmers for only a side game. We are literally winning, bro. Like, Sonic Team is expanding. Sonic Frontiers 2 could, we haven't seen nothing from it yet, but I'm hoping that what we see really shows off what SEGA and Iizuka have been saying, that they are really putting their all into the next Sonic game. Cause I'm like, they can't just give us another Shadow Gens, but it gotta be a bit more. It has to be more, bro. It has to be more than that. But I'm gonna keep my expectations, fair. I'm gonna keep my expectations fair. I'm not gonna keep my expectations high because, with Sonic Team is like, you could have, they could do something good and then all of a sudden out of left field they just throw a haymaker. It's like, what? And with all this information, I'll say that Sonic Frontiers 2 might just expand on the ideas that worked in Frontiers. However, we truly don't know how big it could be. It can be a Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart or a Shadow Generations, but with better animations and graphical quality. But only time will tell. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe and like the video. Peace out.